In 1990, the science fiction action film Total Recall, directed by Paul Verhoeven, was released. It is considered among the last Hollywood films to use large-scale sets instead of relying on CGI, and that, I would say, is the main reason why its visuals are still holding up to this very day. Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Schwarzenegger had been working on the script for Total Recall since the 1970s, but in the process they realized that it would cost way too much to adapt the story. So instead the screenwriters decided to switch to another script, which later became the basis for the Alien movie. But lucky for us, Total Recall was not cast into oblivion, and the Canadian director David Cronenberg took it on. He wrote several versions of the script and then waited for approval. Meanwhile, he even looked for an actor to play the title role. His personal pick was John Hurt. Unfortunately, the shooting was not green-lit, and Cronenberg refused to direct. So it wasn't until 1988, when Paul Verhoeven was appointed to direct the film, that the shooting finally began. As you may guess, Verhoeven's candidacy did not arise by chance. Just a year earlier, the action film RoboCop was released, and it showed Verhoeven's skills in all their glory. By the way, Arnold Schwarzenegger wanted to play the main role in RoboCop, but weird as it may sound, neither his enormous popularity nor influence helped him get the role. Arnold was simply too huge for the part. So naturally, when the actor found out that his favorite director was going to shoot a new, no less brutal movie, moreover about Mars, he immediately applied for the lead role. Arnold is not the kind of person you can simply turn down twice, so naturally this time he was successful. Having landed the main part, Schwarzenegger began suggesting quite extensive changes to the script. For example, according to the original version, the main character was supposed to be an office clerk. Schwarzenegger, however, wanted his character to be a construction worker. Cynthia Rothrock was supposed to play the role of Laurie. Her name must be familiar to everyone who watched martial arts movies in the 80s and 90s. In those years, she was immensely popular, but in spite of that, the role went to Sharon Stone. The actress at the time of filming had excellent physical training. Even Schwarzenegger himself was impressed, calling her the Woman Terminator. And that, my friends, is something to wear as a badge of honor. Shooting began in the spring of 1989 in Mexico City. The creators were attracted by the brutal architectural style of some buildings in the Mexican capital, which they believed was suitable for the sort of techno-totalitarian future they were trying to depict. Natural landscapes were also utilized. For instance, the final scene, in which the heroes are thrown on the Martian surface, was filmed in the desert near Mexico City. However, this approach did cause some problems down the line. Due to poor sanitary conditions, almost the entire crew suffered from severe food poisoning. Doctors were constantly on duty near the set. It was only Schwarzenegger who wasn't affected in the slightest. The thing is, while shooting the movie Predator, the actor gained some first-hand experience of working in unsanitary conditions like these, and during the filming of Total Recall organized a delivery of food from the US. After shooting the material in Mexico, the set was moved to the pavilions, where the work also boiled over. The Total Recall crew consisted of about 500 people, who built and maintained 45 different locations, starting from the streets, hotels and diners of the Martian city and ending with the scenery of the Red Planet. And all this looks positively amazing. Such a scale required some serious investment, which at the time made Total Recall the most expensive film in the history of cinema. Most of the visual effects were created using traditional methods: miniatures, models, makeup and animatronics. A prime example is the classic scene where the main character removes a broken head mask. It is a real machine with a copy of Schwarzenegger's face inside of it. Back then it was simply impossible to pull off something like that with CGI. The technology just wasn't there yet. For all of this, we need to thank the team led by the legendary Rob Bottin. It was he who created the special effects in The Thing, which are still considered the benchmark of the pre-computer era. And rightfully so, he managed to create some pure nightmare fuel. But ironically, The Thing did not bring Bottin any awards at the time. Only hospitalization due to severe nervous exhaustion, but that doesn't really count. It was only 8 years later that justice was served. Bottin won an Oscar for his work on Total Recall. Unrestricted creative freedom resulted in things that became more than just calling cards for the film. They became popular and, in a way, a meme. You just can't unsee this imagery. The bulging eyes, the Nose Bug, the Priestess of Love with 3 breasts, and Kuato, the leader of resistance or maybe a twin parasite? By the way, when Verhoeven first saw the actor wearing that special suit with Kuato on their belly, he really thought he was looking at someone with an actual genetic anomaly. Yet another testament to just how convincing Botin's work was. Sure, the story may be something that was just made up in retrospect, but I really like to think it's legit. For panoramic views of the Red Planet, the designers constructed enormous miniatures. Canyons, mountains, alien reactors, buildings of colonies of Earthlings and their transport, the artists did their best. By the way, to make it as real as possible, extraterrestrial views of Mars were created based on real photographs. Besides, a certain part of the cars of the future were invented and created for the movie. However, they did not really need to think of something completely new. Instead, already existing examples of cars were used as a reference, preferably the ones with a rather futuristic appearance. When you watch the movie carefully, it turns out that people drive Volkswagen cars on Earth and on Mars, namely the models Boonie Bug, Town Car and Phoenix Van. As for the famous Johnny Cab driven by a robot, it was designed from scratch. The filmmakers had 2 product placement contracts, one with Coca-Cola and the other with Pepsi. The difficulty was that these brands should not have occupied the same space in the film. The way they went about it is really smart and original. Coca-Cola was placed only on Earth and Pepsi only on Mars. Preparations for the release of the Total Recall were quite chaotic. First of all, because of the difficulties with the creation of the effects, the post-production of the film was severely delayed. To make matters worse, instead of giving the creators extra time to finish the film, the Carol Core Studios, on the contrary, moved the premiere date 2 weeks earlier. Secondly, MPAA also contributed its share, originally awarding the film with an X rating. Because of that, Verhoeven had to repeatedly re-edit the picture to reduce the level of violence, which is a torturous process for any director. The biggest change was made to the subway scene, where the protagonist uses one of the passengers as a human shield. As a result of all this, the creators simply did not have time to organize a single test screening for the film. So the Total Recall came out in as-it-is format. But in spite of all this, and against all odds, the film became one of the biggest hits of 1990, and also an instant classic, entering the top 5 of the box office movies at the international box office. With a budget of 65 million, the Total Recall grossed 261 million. And that is all for today. Please subscribe to our channel, give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to write your opinion down below. Thank you for watching. Good luck everyone!